The wind blew gently across the dry, cracked ground of Corel 4, a small desert planet far from the core worlds. The sky was orange, the dust never settled, and nothing important ever happened here. Lyra was just a girl, 17 years old, with wild brown hair and sand-colored clothes. She walked barefoot through the dusty village, holding her little brother's hand. His name was Tam. He was 6. He laughed as they kicked a broken can down the road. "Race you to the water tank," Tam shouted. Lyra smiled. "You'll lose again." They ran through the empty street, past metal huts and rusted machines. There were no flying cars here, no big cities, no soldiers, only silence and heat. But above them, hidden behind clouds, a dark ship floated in orbit, silent. Watching inside that ship, Commander Thalos stood with his arms behind his back. He wore the gray uniform of the Galactic Empire. His face was cold, sharp like steel. His eyes looked down at a blinking screen. "She's here," said the tech officer. "Got confirmed genetic signature. Alpha 3. Run the scan again," Thalos said. The officer hesitated. "We already did." 3 times. Thalos's jaw tightened. After 200 years, the bloodline survived. He turned to the screen. A fuzzy image showed a girl in the dust, laughing with her brother. Just a girl. It's nothing special, but inside her something ancient was hidden. A key. A code written into her DNA by the first ones. The makers.tha loss pressed a button. "Send the retrieval squad. Take her alive if possible." Down on the planet, Lyra stopped running. She felt something strange, a noise like a low hum in the air. The ground seemed to buzz beneath her. "Feet, Tam," she said slowly. "Do you feel that?" Tam looked up confused. "Feel what?" Then the sky turned dark. A ship broke through the clouds, black-wide, silent as death. Villagers screamed. Some ran, others just stared. Lyra froze. Her heart pounded. She didn't know why, but fear gripped her chest. Troopers dropped from the ship in black armor. Their faces were hidden. Their weapons glowed blue. "By order of the Galactic Empire," one shouted, "the girl named Lyra must surrender at once." The crowd gasped. Lyra stepped back. "What's happening?" A woman grabbed her arm. "Run, child. Go." Lyra grabbed Tam's hand and ran. The air burned as lasers flew past. Dust exploded around them. She ducked behind a broken wall, breathing hard. "Why me?" she whispered. "I'm nobody." But deep inside her, something started to wake. The troopers closed in. "We have her location," one said. "She's hiding behind Sector Wall 7. Talos watched from the ship above. He didn't blink." "Commander," said the officer, "you ordered live capture." "Should we?" "She's activating," Talos said coldly. "If we don't stop her now, we'll lose everything. Fire." The trooper raised his rifle. Lyra stood up, shielding Tam. "Don't hurt him," she said. Eyes wide, a blue blast hit her chest. She fell. Everything stopped. Above the planet, systems flickered. Inside the Imperial ship, alarms began to scream. "Commander, something's wrong." "What is it?" "She's dead." "But, sir, we're detecting a pulse, an energy surge." Talos turned to the screen. It was too late. Back on the ground, Tam cried beside her body. Dust swirled. The wind howled. Strange light flowed from Lyra's chest, soft, white, and pulsing like a heartbeat. People came out from hiding. The soldiers stood frozen, their weapons dropped. One fell to his knees, clutching his head. Lyra's eyes opened. But they weren't her eyes anymore. They glowed. She stood up slowly. The wound on her chest vanished. The sky cracked. Every Imperial system in orbit shut down. Ships fell from the sky like dead birds. Satellites spun out of control. Across the galaxy, computers screamed the same message. Genetic lock broken. Maker protocol activated. Talos looked up as the control room darkened. Lights turned red. "Sir," said the officer, trembling, "we just lost connection too." The capital. In the dust, Lyra walked forward. Her voice was soft, but it echoed through every machine. I remember. They won't move. Tam stood beside her, holding her hand again. You hurt so many, Lyra whispered. But I'm awake now. The ground shook. Old towers buried for centuries rose from beneath the sand. Machines hummed to life. The planet itself seemed to awaken. A trooper tried to shoot again. His weapon exploded in his hands. Lyra turned. To the sky, far away, on a moon base near Earth, a technician stared at her screen. Sir, what is it? There's a message. It's coming from Kurel 4. What message? The girl on the screen stared straight into the camera. Her eyes burned like stars. Then she spoke. The Empire ends now. Silence. It spread like a wave from Kurel 4. The Imperial Command Center on the capital world felt its first systems freezing. Sensors going dark, comes going quiet. Admiral Vex stood inside the Empire's core command tower. What just happened? He barked. Report. A young officer looked up, sweating. Sir, all data lines from Sector 9 just stopped. We lost contact with Kurel 4 and 5 nearby systems. What about the retrieval squad? The Admiral asked. They're offline, sir. All ships in orbit around Kurel 4 crashed. Back on Kurel 4, the dust had settled. Lyra stood at the center of the village. Her body glowed with soft golden light. She was calm now, almost peaceful. Tam looked up at her. Lyra. She smiled. It's okay, Tam. I'm still me. But she wasn't just a girl anymore. She was something more. Something ancient had awakened inside her. The villagers watched in fear and wonder. Machines, buried for centuries, rose slowly around her strange towers, long and silver. Humming with energy, the air shimmered. In deep space, something responded, thousands of light years away. In the ruins of the Maker's satellite grid, a forgotten machine lit up. It hadn't moved in over 100,000 years. It spoke one word. Awakened. Gears turned. Codes activated. Old commands older than any empire began to spread. Across galaxies, systems started to reset. New signals pulsed across time and space. It was the second pulse. On Earth, in the United Rebel Command Base, a screen blinked to life. Commander Kale rushed into the control room. What is this? He asked. His second-in-command replied, A signal, sir, from a desert planet Kurel 4. We didn't send anyone there. The screen showed her Lyra. She stood in the dust, glowing. Her voice came through the speakers, clear and strange. I am Lyra of the line. The lock is broken. The Makers live in me. The Empire ends now. Everyone in the room stood still. Who is she? Kale whispered. In the Imperial Palace. The Emperor listened in silence. She's just a child, one of his generals said. A mutation? We can kill her again. No, the Emperor said slowly. She was never just a child. She was the key. We knew the Makers might return, but not like this. He rose from his black throne, eyes cold. She is not to be fought. She is to be erased. Down on Kurel 4, Lyra walked through the village. She touched a wall, healed. Itself, she looked at a broken machine. It stood up, working again. The villagers followed her. Some cried, some knelt. One whispered, Is she a god? Lyra turned to them. I'm not a god, she said softly. I was just a girl, but they killed me. And now, I remember everything. She looked up at the sky. I remember what the Empire did to the Makers, what they did to you, they tried to do to me. Suddenly a voice called through the air. Projection formed. A man in armor. Commander THA lost. His image was broken, fading in and out. You are dangerous. Lyra, he said. Your existence threatens order. The Empire cannot allow you to live. She didn't flinch. You already killed me once, she said. It didn't work. Thalos hesitated. The Emperor himself has marked you. There'll be no place left for you to hide. Lyra stepped closer to the image. I'm not hiding, she said. You should. She raised her hand. The image of Thalos exploded at that same moment across the galaxy. Something strange happened. Weapons failed. Starshares powered by Empire. Tech went dead. Defenses shut down. Machines once loyal to the Empire turned red and stopped listening. One by one, planets fell silent. People panicked. Some cheered. Many didn't understand what was happening, but they all saw the same message. Glowing on every screen, Maker Protocol active, control returned to origin. The Empire's strength was crumbling. Piece by piece. Commander Kale of the rebels stood before his officers. "We have a chance now," he said. "The Empire is weakened. This girl, Lyra, she did this." "But what is she?" someone asked. "She's hope," Kale said. "She's fire in the dark. She's what they never expected." On Corel 4, Tam held Lyra's hand. "Are you leaving?" he asked. Lyra looked at the stars. "Not yet, but soon." She nodded. "I have work to do." Machines gathered around her shaped like birds, snakes, and stars. They were waiting for her command. She looked at them. "Let's finish what they started," she said. And across the galaxy in places long forgotten, the second pulse continued. To echo, not the sound of death, but the sound of something waking up, something unstoppable, something very human. In a dark room aboard the rebel ship Freeborn, screens began to flicker. One by one, old monitors, dusty and forgotten, turned on. A girl's face appeared on each screen. Brown hair, gentle eyes, calm voice. She was smiling. None of the crew had seen her before, yet somehow many began to cry. "Sir, you need to see this," called a rebel technician. Commander Kale rushed into the room. The crew was silent, staring at the screens.
Lyra's
Face was everywhere. "She's..." Speaking, the technician whispered, but her lips didn't move. Instead, words appeared in their minds. "I remember who I am." Kale stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked. The answer came in a soft voice only he could hear. "I was Lyra. I am something more now. I see your pain. I see your fight. You are not alone anymore." And just like that, every rebel ship across 100 systems received the same message. Same face, same feeling. Hope, far away. On Corel 4, Lyra stood on a high dune. Her hair as machines, both ancient and new, gathered at her feet. Tam sat beside her, playing with a small glowing cube. Lyra wasn't glowing now. She looked like an ordinary girl again. But inside, she was different. She was connected to everything: the machines, the satellites. It's the secret tech the Empire used to rule. She could see everything, even places she had never visited, even people she had never met. She could see their memories. She could feel them in the Imperial Council chamber. Panic spread. "This is a virus." One general shouted, "We need to shut it down." "It's not a virus," another whispered. "It's her." The Emperor stood still, watching a screen where Lyra's face remained. "She is talking to the people," he said slowly. A captain replied, "Sir, she's in their minds. Even loyal soldiers are hearing her, feeling her emotions." The Emperor clenched his fists. "This is worse than rebellion. This is connection. This is unity. Prepare the final protocol." On a mining colony near the edge of the galaxy, a young slave boy sat in the dark. His hands were chained. His face was bruised. Suddenly, his broken comlink turned on. He saw Lyra. She looked at him not with pity, but with kindness. "You matter," she told him. The chains around his hands snapped open. The boy cried. On a ship once controlled by the Empire, something strange happened. An AI designed only for war stopped taking orders. It paused, then it said, "Maker Protocol confirmed. Rebuilding purpose." It played Lyra's message, then turned on its Imperial crew and released the rebel prisoners inside. Everywhere, systems failed. The Empire returned to Lyra, and through each one, she remembered more. She saw war. She saw pain. She saw how the Empire rose by crushing voices like hers. And still, she stood in the dust, silent, remembering it all. Tam looked up at her. "Why are you sad, Lyra?" She knelt beside him. "Because I remember what they did to so many people. Now I carry those memories. He nodded. But you can make it better now, right? She looked at him, smiled gently. I'll try. Back. On Freeborn, Kale held a meeting. We've seen what she can do, he said. The people are rising. The machines are turning. Empire is bleeding. But what is she? One officer asked. She's not just a girl anymore. Kale looked at the screen. She's memory. She's everything they tried to erase. And now, he continued, she's writing a new story. In a secret part of the galaxy, hidden in shadows, the Emperor stood before a black monolith. He placed his hand on it. Begin final protocol, he whispered. The monolith replied, warning. Engaging this protocol will attempt to erase the anomaly from all records and systems. Estimated loss, 12 billion lives. The Emperor didn't blink. She's turning my empire into a dream. I built this galaxy from fear. I will not lose it. To a memory? Confirm. He closed his eyes. Confirm. On Corel 4, Lyra gasped. The wind stopped. The sand trembled. Tam jumped to his feet. Lyra, what's wrong? She stood tall, her eyes glowing again. I felt something break. She whispered. Something big. Then she looked at the sky. A new danger was coming. Not just a weapon, something designed. To erase her, erase everything. But she wasn't afraid, because now she wasn't alone. Every child who saw her believed. Every prisoner who heard her voice found strength. Every rebel who touched her memory picked up a weapon again. Across stars. People whispered her name, not as a ghost, not as a girl, but as a symbol. A memory that refused to fade. The stars above the galaxy were no longer silent. Everywhere, people were waking up. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Citizens stopped their work. Screens across cities, ships, colonies showed one name again and again. Lyra, she was no longer just a story. She was the spark that set everything on fire, inside the throne. A fortress on the capital world, the Emperor stood before a large black window. He looked down at his city, a sea of lights now flickering like dying candles. Tell me what's happening, he said without turning. A general behind him spoke, voice shaking. 10 systems offline. 9 more joining the rebellion. 400 million now receiving the Lyra transmission. And our command AI? Gone, sir? It switched sides. Some systems are protecting her. The Emperor clenched his fists. She's infecting our galaxy with hope. In deep space, one of the Empire's oldest weapons, the Eclipse Fortress, received new orders. It was an AI-controlled planet killer. It's built to destroy entire worlds. Now, it had a new target. Corel 4. Authorization code. Oblivion. The system confirmed. The weapon moved slowly, charging, on Corel 4. Lyra stood at the top of an ancient tower, now fully awake. Silver lines of glowing energy moved across its surface, like veins of a living thing. The machines around her hummed like a choir. Tam stood below, waving up at her. Lyra, come look. There's a light in the sky. She turned her head. A red dot had appeared above the horizon. Her voice grew cold. That's not a star. It was the Eclipse Fortress. And it was coming. Elsewhere in the galaxy, rebel forces gathered. Commander Kale stood in front of a giant holomap. We have one chance, he said. That fortress will reach Corel 4 in less than 6 hours. If Lyra dies, everything ends. A pilot stepped forward. Sir, even if we reach her, how do we stop that thing? It destroyed 3 planets in the last war. Kale stared at the map. We don't stop it. He looked up, his voice hard. She does. On Corel 4, Lyra sat in silence. She closed her eyes. She reached into the energy that now flowed through her body, and then she remembered something she hadn't seen before. Not just her own memories, the Makers. She saw them tall, eyes full of light. They had built the galaxy before the Empire. They'd loved creation, not control. And before they vanished, they left behind something powerful. A last defense, locked in the DNA. Yes. Of their descendants. People like her. She opened her eyes. I know what I am now. The Eclipse Fortress entered orbit. Its massive guns pointed down. Its systems scanned for life. It found her. Target locked. Anomaly Lyra. Priority 1. The countdown began. 5 o'clock, 4:59, 4:58. Rebel ships dropped out of hyperspace. Kale's fleet arrived just in time to see the fortress preparing to fire. Get to the planet, Kale shouted. We have to give her time. Fighters broke formation and charged toward the massive weapon. Laser fire filled the sky. The Empire responded with full force. Lyra stepped into the center of the tower. Machines rose around her like old friends. I'm not alone, she whispered. And they answered, towers across Karel 4. Lit up beacons of power built by the makers long ago. Energy flowed through the ground. The stars. Lyra raised both hands. The wind roared. The sky cracked. The Eclipse Fortress began to shake. Systems. Inside started failing. Unknown signal detected, a drone reported. Where is it coming from? The AI demanded. Everywhere, it answered. A massive beam of golden energy shot up from Karel 4 and struck the Eclipse Fortress directly. The weapon screamed a deep mechanical sound no living being could make. Its countdown stopped, its guns turned to glass, its walls melted like ice under fire, and in its final moment, the fortress sent one last message. I see her. She is the beginning. She is the end. Then the fortress exploded. In the rebel ship Freeborn, Kale stared at the screen, speechless. No shots fired from their side, no missiles, just her. The girl who broke the Empire's greatest weapon without lifting a gun. The room was silent. Then, someone whispered, she's more than human now. On Karel 4, the ground was still. Tam ran up the tower to hug Lyra. You did it, she smiled, but her face was tired. It's not over yet. From orbit, Imperial scouts were already fleeing. Messages spread fast. The Empire's most powerful weapon was gone. People on every planet began to ask the same question. If the Empire can't stop her, why should we fear them anymore? In the capital, the Emperor stared at a dark screen. He said nothing. His generals stood behind him, afraid to speak. He finally whispered, she has become the voice of the makers. And then he said what no one expected, we must kill every memory of her, or she will become immortal. But it was too late. Her image was already carved into the hearts of billions. The Empire trembled not because of her power, but because she gave the galaxy something they had lost long ago. Hope. The sky above Karel 4 still burned from the remains of the Eclipse Fortress. Pieces of the Empire's most powerful weapon drifted in orbit like black ash. The galaxy had just watched a miracle, and it had come from a girl, Lyra. She was standing at the edge of a glowing cliff, her eyes toward the stars. Her face was calm, but her body trembled. She had stopped the fortress, but it had taken something from her, too much energy, too much memory. She had touched the minds of machines, and the pain of billions. Down below, Tam waved from the base of the hill. Lyra, look, the stars are shining brighter. She smiled softly. They're watching. Tam tilted his head. Who? Lyra closed her eyes. Everyone. Across the galaxy. Planets were rising in the outer colonies. Slaves tore down the statues of imperial commanders. In factories, workers turned off their machines and held hands. On prison worlds, inmates overthrew their guards. One signal connected them all. Lyra's broadcast on the rebel flagship Freeborn. Commander Kale was giving orders. Planet Erosnan has declared independence. Titan Prime is shutting down its Imperial docks. He turned to the main screen. Send the message. We stand with the girl in the dust. From this day, the rebellion has a name. He tapped the console, the Lyra Accord. But the Empire was not done. On the throne world, the Emperor stood in front of a room filled with generals, admirals, and broken men. You fear her, he said coldly, because she cannot be controlled. but I do not fear her. She is still human. One general stepped forward. Sir, what should we do? The Emperor stared at a giant screen. It showed Lyra standing on a hill, wind in her hair, looking like a goddess of light and dust. We remind the galaxy what fear looks like. He raised his hand. Prepare the final flame. High above Lyra's planet, new danger arrived. A stealth fleet, silent, invisible, armed with ancient fire. The Empire's final flame fleet had only one mission: destroy. Kirel-4. No survivors, no evidence. They would make her a forgotten ghost. Lyra knew they were coming before the ships entered orbit. She felt them in the air. I won't run, she whispered. She stepped down from the hill and walked to the village square, where people had gathered. I need your help, she said. One old woman stepped forward. Tell us. Lyra reached out her hands. You don't need to fight. Just believe. Let me feel your memories, your love, your pain. The villagers placed their hands in hers, and something impossible happened. A storm began to rise. Not clouds, not lightning, but memory. Lyra's body glowed, and from her back, great wings of energy unfolded. Not real wings, but shapes made of golden fire and ancient light. She rose into the sky. The Empire's fleet began its attack. Hundreds of missiles fired toward the planet, but before they could land, something pushed back. A wave of power. Soft like wind, but strong as gravity. The missiles slowed, then stopped, then reversed, one by one. The ships that launched them were struck by their own fire. From the freeborn, Kale shouted, She's doing it again.
A rebel officer said, Sir.
We just received a message from inside the Imperial fleet. What message? The officer turned the screen. A young Imperial pilot was crying. I saw her. She looked at me, not with hate, but with light. I can't fight her. I won't. Flew higher, her wings shining brighter than any sun. Her voice echoed across the Empire. You ruled with fear. I do not bring fear. You erased memory. I bring it back. You broke our worlds. I will make them whole. The stars listened, and the fire from the Empire fell. On the capital world, the Emperor stood at his throne, watching everything collapse. He screamed, Erase her. Destroy the transmissions. Wipe every screen. But it was too late. Lyra's fire was everywhere, not just in machines, not just in soldiers, in hearts, in minds, in memory. The people no longer feared the Empire. They had seen her fire in the sky, and they believed. That night, Kirel-4 was quiet. Tam sat beside his sister, who now looked pale and tired. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. They won't stop. Not yet. Tam frowned. But we won, didn't we? Lyra looked at the stars again. They still have the throne. And far, far away. The Emperor smiled. She wants to bring down my empire. Let her try. He turned to a glass cage behind him. Inside it, something moved, not human, not machine, something older and angrier. The stars were no longer quiet. Everywhere, people whispered Lyra's name. On desert planets, frozen moons, and space stations, she had become a symbol. A girl with fire in her heart and light in her hands, but in the dark halls of the Empire. Something ancient had awakened, something not afraid of her light. Deep beneath the throne fortress, the Emperor walked alone. His boots echoed as he entered a chamber of black stone and old code. This place had been hidden even from his own generals. In the center, a tall glass tank stood filled with silver fluid. Inside it floated a shape half machine, half flesh, covered in wires. Eyes closed, the Emperor touched the glass. You are the first. It's the one who crushed the Makers when the galaxy was young. The creature twitched. I kept you sleeping for a time like this. He leaned closer. Her name is Lyra. She thinks hope can win. The creature opened its eyes, blood red. Burning dot on Kirel-4, Lyra sat beside her brother. The fires in the sky had faded, and the people were rebuilding. Tam handed her a piece of fruit. Eat something. You didn't eat yesterday either. Smiled and took it, but her hands trembled. Are you tired? He asked. Yes. She whispered, every time I use the power, I feel more pain. Tam looked down, then stopped using it. I can't, Lyra said. If I stop, they win. The next day, the first attacks began. But this time, it wasn't fleets or weapons. It was creatures. Cybernetic monsters taller than houses. With metal claws and twisted faces dropped from the sky, these weren't machines, were alive. Fused with armor? No. Born from war and torture? The Empire had named them. The Revenants. And they had only one target. Lyra, the village on Corel 4, shook as the first Revenant landed. Its roar split the air like thunder. Rebel soldiers fired at it. Nothing worked. Bullets bounced off. Energy blasts melted on its skin. It charged. People screamed Lyra. Stepped forward, she raised her hand. The air shimmered. The beast stopped, and, for a second, it looked confused, as if it remembered something. But then it roared again and lunged. Lyra didn't move fast enough. It struck her. She flew across the square, hit the ground hard. Tam screamed on the freeborn Commander Kale. Saw the footage live. Get her out of there. Now, he shouted. No use, sir. The Revenants are blocking all transport. Kale slammed his fist on the table. They changed tactics. They're not trying to destroy her from space anymore. They're sending monsters. On the ground, Lyra stood up slowly, blood on her lips. She looked at the creature again. And then, she did something strange. She walked toward it. The creature hesitated. Lyra placed her hand on its chest. You weren't born to kill, she said softly. You were taken. For a moment, the Revenant trembled. Then its eyes changed from red to blue. It fell to its knees. Dead, elsewhere on the planet, more Revenants fell from the sky. The rebels fought hard, but it wasn't enough. Lyra moved across. The villages one by one, facing them alone. Each time. She tried the same thing. She remembered for them. Some were saved, some could not be. Every time, Lyra grew weaker. On the 10th day, Lyra collapsed. Tam ran to her. Don't get up, please. Just rest. But she sat up, her eyes glowing faintly. I saw something in them, she whispered. A memory. From before they became monsters. She looked toward the stars, I think. They were the Maker's soldiers. The first defenders. Tam's eyes widened, so the Empire took them. And changed them, turned them. Into weapons. Just like they tried to do with me. In the capital, the Emperor smiled as he watched the report. She's breaking, he said. But then his smile faded, because another message was spreading. A Revenant, one of the few saved. Lyra had walked into a rebel camp and said only one thing. I remember her kindness. And it died smiling. Across the galaxy. New voices joined the rebellion. Former Imperial officers, wounded soldiers, even machines. They weren't following orders anymore. They were following Lyra. But Lyra was fading. Each memory she carried was like a weight on her soul. Her hands shook. Her eyes dimmed. The power inside her was burning her from within. That night, Tam sat beside her, holding her hand. Don't die, he whispered. She looked at him and smiled weakly. I don't want to, but even if I do, it won't be the end. He frowned. What do you mean? She pointed to the stars. I've shared the truth. The memories, they can't erase that now. She looked at him one last time. If I fall, promise me something. Tam's voice cracked. Anything, remember me. And somewhere in the void, the Emperor activated his last command. Something was coming, not a ship, not a creature. Something worse. Far above the planet Corel 4, a shadow moved across the stars. It was not a fleet, not a fortress. It was the Black Star, the Emperor's final creation, not made by human hands. It was ancient, older than the Empire, older than the Makers. And now, the Emperor had awakened it. In the throne fortress, the Emperor stood alone. Around him, screens blinked red, alarms screamed. His generals were gone. His cities were burning. His soldiers had switched sides or disappeared. but he smiled. She can break my fleets, calm my beasts, rewrite machines. He placed his hand on a panel made of living metal, but she cannot stop this. On Kirelfor, Lyra stood on trembling legs. Her body was weak. Her fire was almost out. Tam held her arm, trying to keep her steady. Lyra, please, don't fight anymore. She looked at the sky. I don't have a choice. The stars were shifting. A black hole in the sky was growing. It wasn't sucking in light. It was removing hope. She could feel it. The black star had arrived, on board the Freeborn. Commander Kale stood before the giant view screen. He had seen battles. He had seen entire planets fall. But he had never seen anything like this. The black star wasn't a ship. It was like a god. And it was awake, sir, an officer said quietly. It's moving toward Kirelfor. Estimated impact, 1 hour. Kale didn't blink. Then we buy her 1 more hour. The rebels charged. Ships jumped into space like fireflies, rushing toward a storm. They fought bravely, but nothing touched the black star. Their weapons passed through it, there. Missiles exploded before they hit. The black star was not made of matter. It was made of memory, dark memory. The memory of war, of fear, of every cruel thing the Empire had ever done. And Lyra could feel it all pressing on her. She fell to her knees. Screams filled her mind, lives lost. Voices erased, stars destroyed. Her eyes dimmed. Tam knelt beside her. Don't go, please, Lyra. She looked at him, her voice thin. I can't hold it back. Suddenly, a voice echoed through her thoughts. Not Tam, not the Emperor. A woman's voice. Calm, strong. You are not alone. Lyra's eyes opened wide. All around her, the villagers were kneeling, hands pressed to the ground, eyes closed, and across the galaxy. People were doing the same. On every planet touched by her message, they remembered her. They believed in her. They shared her strength, and Lyra stood. The black star slowed. For the first time, it hesitated. In the capital, the Emperor saw it on his screen. No, he growled. No, you cannot stop it. He slammed his fist on the console. She is a girl. A child. She was supposed to die. But something strange was happening. The black star was dimming. Its darkness was cracking. Light was breaking through. Lyra floated into the sky. Higher than ever before, her body was glowing, not just with energy, but with everyone's hope. The power was not hers alone anymore. It belonged to every hand that held a weapon, every voice that had been silenced, every soul that still dreamed of freedom. She reached out and touched the black star. There was no explosion, no fire, only silence, and then a whisper. You cannot erase memory. The black star shattered like glass, the pieces scattered across the stars, turning into tiny sparks of light. One by one, rebel ships stopped firing. The sky was clear, the darkness was gone. On the Freeborn, Kale stood in silence. She did it. He whispered. No one cheered. They just stood there crying, smiling, breathing for the first time in years. They felt peace in the capital. The throne fortress cracked. The towers shook. The control panels blinked and died. The Emperor stood alone in a dark hall. He looked at the empty room, and for the first time in his life, he felt fear. On Kirelfor, Lyra floated down slowly. Her body flickered like a candle at the end. Tam caught her before she collapsed. Lyra, cried. Her eyes opened, glowing weakly. It's over, she whispered. You stopped him, Tam. Said she smiled. No, she said we did. And then she closed her eyes. Across the galaxy, stars pulsed once, not in pain, in remembrance. The Empire had fallen. The throne was no more, and all because of a girl who chose to remember. Galaxy was silent, not in fear, but in peace. The black star was gone. The Emperor had vanished. The Empire's banners were torn down across 1,000 worlds. People stood in the light of new suns, holding hands, smiling for the first time in generations, and everywhere, on every screen, wall, or whispered breath, one name remained: Lyra. On Kirillfor, the sky was calm. The dust had settled. Tam sat beside a quiet body in the grass. He held her hand. Lyra was still. Her face was peaceful, her breathing soft and slow. She had not moved in days. Machines surrounded her, watching silently make her. Relics now loyal to her will. They didn't hum. They waited. Villagers came daily to light candles, leave flowers, and sit in silence. Not praying, just remembering. Commander Kale stood outside the rebuilt village walls. He looked older now, wiser. He had seen the galaxy change, but not by war, by one girl. She gave us everything, he whispered. His second-in-command asked, "Do we know if she'll wake up?" No, Kale said. But maybe. She already did what she came to do. Far away in what was once the Empire's capital, the throne fortress stood in ruins. But the rebels had not claimed it. They left it empty. No one wanted another throne. Instead, on the tallest tower, they carved just one thing: she remembered us. Tam stayed by Lyra's side every night. He read stories aloud. Old ones, new ones. Stories she had told him. And one morning, as the sun rose across the silver hills, her fingers twitched. Tam blinked. Lyra, her eyes opened, weak but alive. Tam burst into tears. "You're back." She smiled. "I never left. I was just listening." Listening to what? She looked up at the morning sky, to the galaxy. The machines around her lit up again. One by one, they sent messages out, not of war or command, but of memory. They played voices from planets freed. They replayed laughter from cities reborn. And everywhere, people heard her whisper, "Remember who you are." The rebels did not build a new government, not yet. They let each planet decide. Some became peaceful farming worlds. Some built new science stations, libraries and gardens. Some chose to remember by building statues of Lyrod, though none showed her as a god, only a girl, barefoot, smiling, holding her brother's hand. Years passed. Kirillfor changed. The village grew. Tam became a teacher. Children from across the stars came to learn there. Not about war, but about peace, about kindness, about remembering. Lyra stayed. Sometimes, walking alone through the fields, sometimes standing by the old towers, sometimes holding the hand of a child who had lost everything. She never spoke much. She didn't need to. Some say she never aged. Some say she became part of the planet. Others say she visits worlds and dreams, just a girl with fire in her heart and dust on her feet. No one knows for sure. But one truth remained. She was never forgotten 1,000 years later. A boy stood on a moon and looked up at the stars. "Grandma," he asked, "do you think Lyra was real?" The old woman smiled and handed him a book. Inside was a story. Her story. "Does it matter if she was real?" she asked. "You believe in what she did, don't you?" He nodded. "Then she's still alive, somewhere in the quiet space. Between stars, a gentle voice echoed in the heart of every living thing. Empires fall, but memory lives. You were never small. You were always human. And that is enough.